When my daughter came home from college, the HOA president called the cops, accusing her of unauthorized presence. She thought we were renters, or worse, outsiders. But when the officers arrived and saw my badge on the mantel and the courtroom seal on my wall, Karen's smug grin vanished. Justice came swiftly. It was a calm Saturday morning when I picked up my daughter, Emma, from the airport. She'd just finished her first year at law school, following, reluctantly, she'd claim, in my footsteps. The drive home was filled with laughter, the kind of easy conversation we'd missed over the months she'd been gone. When we pulled into the driveway of my colonial-style home in Maplewood Estates, she smiled. "I miss this place," she said softly. "The quiet, the trees, even your ridiculous collection of law books." "Careful," I teased. "Someday you'll have your own ridiculous collection." But peace didn't last long in this neighborhood. Our home bordered the HOA zone. I owned one of the few properties grandfathered out of their control. That technicality had made me a target since the day I moved in. The HOA president, Karen Holt, had a reputation. She called herself protector of community values. Everyone else called her the neighborhood tyrant. I'd dealt with her before. She'd left notes about my non-approved mailbox, tried to fine me for parking violations, and once accused my gardener of trespassing. Each time I politely reminded her that my property wasn't part of the HOA, but Karen never took no as an answer. So when Emma stepped out of the car that afternoon, suitcase in hand, Karen appeared almost immediately, like she'd been watching. She marched across her pristine lawn, phone already out, and shouted, "Excuse me, who is that?" Emma blinked. Me?" Karen frowned. "This is a private community. Visitors need authorization. Residents must notify the HOA before allowing unknown individuals on the premises." I walked out from the garage, jaw tightening. "Karen, this is my daughter. She's visiting. And my property isn't under your jurisdiction." Karen's lips pursed like she'd bitten a lemon. "All properties in this development are subject to oversight. It's for everyone's safety," I smiled thinly. "Then you'll be happy to know safety is one of my specialties." But she wasn't listening. She stepped back, phone still in hand, and said, "You can explain that to the police." I thought she was bluffing. She'd made threats before. But 20 minutes later, 2 squad cars rolled into the cul-de-sac, lights flashing. Emma looked horrified. "Dad, what the hell?" "Stay calm," I said quietly. Karen stood proudly on her driveway, pointing at us like she was directing a SWAT raid. "That's them! The girl trespassed onto my property line. She was walking her bag right over it." The officers approached, looking uncomfortable. "Sir," one said, "we got a report of trespassing and disturbance." I raised an eyebrow. "Did she mention we live here?" Karen folded her arms. "They claim to live here. I've never seen that girl before. She could be anyone." The officer looked at me, then at Emma. "Do you have ID, ma'am?" Emma's hands trembled slightly as she handed it over. The officer read it, frowned, then turned back to me. "And you, sir?" I nodded toward the house. "You're welcome to step inside. I'll show you exactly who I am," Karen snorted. "Oh, please." "Don't let them trick you." But when the officers followed me into the foyer, their demeanor changed completely. The first thing they saw was the large framed certificate on the wall, United States District Court, Judge Michael Turner. The senior officer's eyes widened. "Judge Turner?" I nodded calmly. "The very same. Would you like to see my commission or the framed photo of me swearing in at the courthouse?" Outside, Karen was still ranting. "Arrest them. This is a secure neighborhood." The younger officer stepped back out, his tone suddenly firm. "Ma'am, you might want to stop talking." Karen blinked. "Excuse me?" He motioned toward me. "You just called in a false report on a federal judge and his daughter." Her face drained of color. "Now," I said, stepping forward, voice low but steady, "why don't we talk about harassment, trespassing, and misuse of emergency services?" For the first time since I'd met her, Karen had nothing to say. By Monday morning, my phone was blowing up. Neighbors, local news, even other judges heard about the HOA incident. I didn't plan to escalate it, but Karen made that decision for me. That same morning, I received an envelope, hand-delivered by a nervous HOA board member, demanding an apology for disturbing community order. I laughed out loud. "They're filing a complaint against me?" Emma, sipping coffee, smirked. "Dad, are you going to make them regret it?" "Not make them. Let them." See, Karen didn't realize that misuse of police services wasn't just rude, it was a crime. And I had witnesses, body cam footage, and 911 records to prove her report was knowingly false. I didn't press criminal charges right away. Instead, I filed a civil injunction, a restraining order against Karen and the HOA for harassment and defamation. Within a week, the case was scheduled in my courthouse, though I recused myself, of course. It was assigned to Judge Morales, a colleague who didn't suffer fools gladly. The day of the hearing, the courtroom was packed. HOA board members filled one side, whispering nervously. Karen sat at the front, dressed like she was going to brunch, trying to look composed. When the bailiff announced the case, her smile vanished. Judge Morales entered with the calm of a storm about to break. "Mrs. Holt," she began, "you're accused of filing a knowingly false police report and engaging in ongoing harassment of a private citizen, who, incidentally, is a federal judge. How do you plead?" Karen tried to laugh it off. "Your Honor, this is all a misunderstanding. I was simply doing my duty as HOA president to protect our neighborhood." Judge Morales leaned forward. "By calling 911 on a judge's daughter?" Karen hesitated. She looked suspicious," Emma whispered next to me. "She actually said that." The prosecutor played the body cam footage, Karen screaming, pointing, and insisting Emma didn't belong. When the officers identified me as a federal judge, the footage caught Karen's expression, the moment she realized her mistake. The courtroom chuckled. Karen turned beet red. "This is being taken out of context." Morales wasn't having it. "The context is clear. You abused authority you don't have. This is not the first time you've targeted residents outside your HOA." That's when I handed my attorney a stack of prior notices, dozens of letters, complaints and threats Karen had sent me over the past 2 years. Morales flipped through them, eyes narrowing. "You've been told repeatedly that his property is not within your HOA jurisdiction. Yet you continued your behavior," Karen stammered. "But it should be part of the HOA." Morales smiled faintly. "That's not how the law works." When the verdict came, it was swift and brutal. Karen and the HOA were found guilty of harassment and defamation. The HOA was fined $50,000 for abuse of authority. Karen was personally ordered to pay damages and issue a written public apology. As we left the courthouse, Emma grinned. "That was satisfying," I chuckled. "Justice usually is." After the verdict, Maplewood Estates was never the same. Word spread fast that the HOA president had been taken down by the very judge she'd tried to intimidate. Karen vanished from public view for weeks. The HOA board quietly removed her from leadership, citing irreconcilable conduct. Then, one morning, an envelope appeared on my porch. Inside was a handwritten letter, shaky, desperate penmanship. "Judge Turner, I want to sincerely apologize for everything. I was wrong. I let my position get to my head. I didn't know who you were, and I certainly didn't mean to cause harm. I've resigned from the HOA and will be moving away. Karen Holt." I folded the letter and sighed.
"Finally, some accountability." Emma looked over my shoulder and smirked.
"So, Dad, you made an HOA president move states. That's power." "Not power," I said quietly. "Just justice. And maybe a little poetic irony." A month later, the HOA disbanded entirely. Without Karen's leadership, and with hefty legal fines, they couldn't sustain themselves. The neighborhood relaxed. People started planting gardens again, repainting houses, and waving instead of hiding behind rules. Emma finished her summer internship with me at the courthouse, and when she went back to school, she carried the story with her, not as gossip, but as a lesson in power and law. "People who crave control," she said, "usually lose it the moment someone holds them accountable." I smiled. "You'll make a good judge someday." Now, when I walk my dog past Karen's old house, a new family waves from the porch. The once feared HOA queen is just a story now, a warning whispered by neighbors about what happens when arrogance meets authority. And me? I still hang that court notice, the one that disbanded the HOA, framed in my study. It's a reminder, no one is above the law, not even Karen.